I caught my fiancé cheating, then found out I was pregnant. My sister's support turned out to be the ultimate betrayal. Now I'm a single mom. I'm Tamara, 19 female, and I'm about to get married to my boyfriend of 4 years, Matthew, 22 male. At least, that was the plan until yesterday. Now, I'm not sure about anything anymore. Matthew and I met during my freshman year of high school. I was the new kid, having just moved to town with my dad after my parents' divorce. I was shy, awkward, and didn't know anyone. On my first day, I got lost trying to find my biology class. That's when Matthew found me, wandering the halls close to tears. He was a junior, confident and popular, but he took the time to walk me to class. From that day on, he always made sure to say hi when we passed in the hallways. We started dating a few months later. It was like a dream come true for me. Matthew was my first real boyfriend, and I was head over heels. He was charming, attentive, and made me feel special. I remember our first date. He took me to the local fair. We rode the Ferris wheel, and at the top, with the whole town spread out below us, he kissed me for the first time. I thought my heart would burst. But looking back, I can see the red flags that I missed or chose to ignore. Matthew had a temper, even back then. He would get jealous if I talked to other guys, even if they were just classmates working on a project. Once, he got into a fight with a guy who he thought was flirting with me. I was mortified, but Matthew said he was just protecting me. As time went on, Matthew's temper and possessiveness got worse. He would get angry over the smallest things, if I was a few minutes late meeting him, if I spent too much time with my friends, or even if I got a text from my mom while we were together. I tried talking to him about it, but he'd always brush it off, saying I was being too sensitive or that I didn't understand how much he loved me. After I graduated high school, I got a job as a doctor's assistant at a local clinic. It was a great opportunity, and I was excited about it. The doctor I worked for, Dr. Thompson, 45M, was kind and patient, always willing to explain things and teach me. For the first time, I felt like I was doing something meaningful with my life. But Matthew. He wasn't thrilled about my job. At first, he said he was proud of me, but soon he started making comments about how much time I was spending at work. He'd ask detailed questions about my day, especially about Dr. Thompson. It wasn't long before he started accusing me of having an affair with Dr. Thompson. I was shocked and hurt by his accusations. Dr. Thompson was happily married with 3 kids and old enough to be my father. Plus, I had never given Matthew any reason to doubt my faithfulness. I tried to reassure Matthew, even inviting him to meet Dr. Thompson and his wife at a clinic fundraiser. But Matthew refused, saying he didn't want to see the man who was stealing me from him. The fights about my job became more frequent and intense. Matthew would show up unannounced at the clinic, glaring at Dr. Thompson and making snide comments. It was embarrassing and unprofessional. I tried explaining to Matthew that this was my career, something I was passionate about, but he wouldn't listen. He kept insisting that I quit. Despite all this, when Matthew proposed 6 months ago, I said yes. I know it sounds naive, but I really thought marriage would change things. I believed that once he felt secure in our relationship, his jealousy and temper would improve. So, I started planning our wedding, hoping for a brighter future. I threw myself into wedding planning, thinking that if I could just create the perfect day, everything would fall into place. I spent hours looking at dresses, venues, and flower arrangements. Matthew seemed excited too, especially when it came to planning our honeymoon. He wanted to go to a remote beach resort, somewhere we could be alone together. At the time, I thought it was romantic. Now, I wonder if he just wanted to isolate me further. As the wedding date got closer, Matthew's demands about my job intensified. He said he didn't want me working after we got married, that his salary was enough for both of us. I was torn. I loved my job, but I also loved Matthew. In the end, I gave in. Last week, I quit my job at the clinic. Dr. Thompson was disappointed but understanding. He told me that if I ever wanted to come back, there would be a place for me. I left feeling a mix of sadness and hope, sad to leave a job I loved, but hopeful that this sacrifice would make my relationship stronger. Yesterday, I decided to surprise Matthew by coming home early. I bought his favorite takeout and was excited to spend the evening together, maybe start discussing our plans for after the wedding. But when I walked into our apartment, my world shattered. There was Matthew, on our couch, with Mrs. Adams, 35 female, our recently divorced neighbor. They were in a compromising position that left no doubt about what was happening. I couldn't believe my eyes. All those times he accused me of cheating, and here he was, doing exactly that. For a moment, I just stood there, frozen. Then Mrs. Adams saw me and quickly pulled away from Matthew. Matthew jumped up, his face a mix of shock and guilt. He started stammering, trying to explain, but I couldn't hear him over the roaring in my ears. I didn't wait for explanations. I turned around, got in my car, and drove. I didn't even know where I was going at first. I just knew I had to get away. Somehow, I ended up at my sister Megan's, 24 female, house. When she opened the door and saw my face, she knew something was terribly wrong. I've been here at Megan's for the past day, ignoring Matthew's calls and messages. My phone keeps buzzing with notifications, but I can't bring myself to look at them. Megan thinks I should talk to Matthew, at least to get closure and my things from the apartment. But I can't bring myself to face him. Every time I think about seeing him, I feel sick to my stomach. I don't know what to do now. The wedding is supposed to be in 2 months, and everything is already paid for. My family is asking questions, and I haven't told them the real reason why I'm staying with Megan. I feel lost and alone. How did I not see this coming? Was I really so blind? I keep replaying every moment of our relationship in my head, wondering if there were signs I missed. Were there other women? Was I just a fool this whole time? I gave up so much for Matthew, my job, my independence, even some of my friendships that he didn't approve of. And for what? To be betrayed in the worst possible way? Part of me wants to confront Matthew, to scream and yell and make him feel as awful as I do. Another part just wants to disappear, to go somewhere where I don't have to deal with any of this. I know I need to make some decisions soon. I can't hide at Megan's forever. But right now, I'm paralyzed by hurt and indecision. How do I cancel a wedding? How do I tell everyone what happened? How do I start over when I've built my whole life around this relationship? I feel like I'm standing at the edge of a cliff, and I don't know if I should step back or jump. All I know is that the future I thought I had is gone, and I have no idea what comes next. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since I left Matthew's apartment, and I feel like I've aged years in this short time. I'm still staying at Megan's place, trying to figure out my next steps. The first few days were a blur of tears and sleepless nights. Megan has been incredibly supportive, bringing me comfort food and listening to me cry and rant for hours on end. Matthew hasn't stopped trying to contact me. He's left countless voicemails, sent hundreds of text messages, and even tried to reach out through mutual friends. At first, I couldn't bear to listen to any of his messages or read his texts. But curiosity got the better of me, and I finally listened to one of his voicemails a few days ago. His voice was a mix of desperation and anger. He swore that what I saw wasn't what it looked like, that Mrs. Adams had come on to him and he was about to push her away when I walked in. He begged me to come home, saying we could work things out. I wanted to believe him. Part of me still loves him, despite everything. But then I remember all the times he accused me of cheating, all the fights we had about my job, and I feel angry all over again. How dare he accuse me when he was the one being unfaithful? Megan keeps insisting that I need to talk to Matthew. She says I need to end things officially and get my belongings from the apartment. I know she's right, but the thought of facing Matthew makes me feel physically ill. How am I supposed to look at the man I thought I'd spend my life with, knowing he betrayed me in the worst possible way? The irony of the situation isn't lost on me. For years, Matthew accused me of having an affair with Dr. Thompson. He made my life miserable, forced me to quit a job I loved, all because of his unfounded jealousy. And in the end, he was the one cheating. The hypocrisy of it all makes me so angry I can hardly think straight. I've been so stressed that I didn't even notice when I missed my period. It wasn't until Megan mentioned something about her cycle that I realized mine was late. At first, I tried to convince myself it was just stress. After all, with everything that's happened, it wouldn't be surprising if my body was a bit out of whack. But after a few more days passed, I couldn't ignore the possibility anymore. Yesterday, I finally worked up the courage to buy a pregnancy test. I sat on Megan's bathroom floor for what felt like hours, staring at that little stick. When the 2 lines appeared, confirming my pregnancy, I felt like the world was spinning out of control. I'm pregnant. With Matthew's child. I haven't told anyone yet, not even Megan. I'm terrified and confused. How can I bring a child into this mess? I always wanted to be a mother, but not like this. Not with a man I can no longer trust or respect. I find myself thinking about my own parents' divorce, how it affected me growing up. Do I want to put my child through that? Part of me wants to reach out to Matthew, to tell him about the pregnancy. But another part of me is scared of his reaction. What if he uses this to try and force me back into a relationship? What if he becomes even more possessive and controlling? Or worse, what if he wants nothing to do with the baby? I've also been thinking about my career. I gave up my job for Matthew, and now I have nothing. With a baby on the way, I'll need financial stability more than ever. I'm considering reaching out to Dr. Thompson to see if there's any chance I could get my old job back. But the thought of facing everyone at the clinic, having to explain why I left and why I'm coming back, is daunting. My parents have been calling nonstop, wanting to know why I'm still at Megan's and not planning my wedding. I haven't had the heart to tell them the truth. They always liked Matthew, thought he was a good catch. How do I tell them that their future son-in-law is a cheater and that I'm pregnant with his child? I feel like I'm standing at a crossroads, and every path looks terrifying. Do I keep the baby? Do I tell Matthew? Do I try to do this on my own? The weight of these decisions is crushing me. For now, I'm taking it one day at a time. I'm trying to eat healthy, get enough sleep, and avoid stress as much as possible for the baby's sake. But every night, I lie awake, my mind racing with all the what-ifs and maybes. I know I need to make some decisions soon. I can't hide at Megan's forever, and I can't keep this pregnancy a secret for long. But right now, I'm paralyzed by fear and indecision. I never imagined my life would turn out like this. At 19, I should be thinking about college and my future career, not dealing with a cheating ex-fiancé and an unexpected pregnancy. I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing for certain: I deserve better than what Matthew gave me. Whatever I decide, I need to put myself and this baby first. It's time for me to be strong, even if I have no idea how to do that right now. Update 2. It's been 3 months since I found out about my pregnancy, and my life has taken yet another unexpected turn. After spending a month at Megan's, I moved back to my father's house. It was hard explaining everything to my parents, but they've been surprisingly supportive. My mom even moved in temporarily to help me through the pregnancy. Matthew found out about the pregnancy through Megan. I was furious at first that she told him without my permission, but she insisted that he had a right to know. Since then, Matthew has been relentless in trying to contact me. He's been sending messages daily, promising he's changed and wants to be there for me and the baby. After weeks of avoiding him, I finally agreed to meet Matthew at a local coffee shop. I was nervous and nauseous, though that might have been the morning sickness. When I saw him, my heart clenched. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept in weeks. Part of me felt satisfied seeing him suffer, while another part still cared about his well-being. Matthew apologized profusely, swearing that the incident with Mrs. Adams was a one-time mistake. He said he'd been stressed about the wedding and finances, and made a stupid decision. He begged for another chance, saying he wanted to be a good father to our child. Against my better judgment, and with a lot of encouragement from Megan, I agreed to give Matthew another chance, not as a couple, but as co-parents. We started seeing each other regularly, talking about the baby and our future as parents. Matthew seemed genuinely excited about becoming a father. He came to my doctor's appointments, helped me shop for maternity clothes, and even started reading parenting books. Things were starting to feel normal again. Maybe not perfect, but manageable. I was even considering the possibility of reconciliation down the line if Matthew truly had changed. But life had other plans. Last week, I was using Matthew's phone to look up a recipe we wanted to try. My phone had died. As I was closing the browser, I accidentally opened his photo gallery. And there, staring back at me, was a picture that made my blood run cold. It was Matthew and Megan, in bed together, clearly intimate. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My sister, my best friend, the one person I thought I could trust through all of this, she had betrayed me in the worst possible way. And Matthew. I couldn't believe I had been foolish enough to give him another chance. I confronted Matthew immediately. He tried to lie at first, saying the photo was old, from before we got together. But I knew better. I could see Megan's new tattoo in the picture, one she'd gotten just a month ago. I left Matthew's place in a daze and drove straight to Megan's house. I've never been a violent person, but at that moment, I wanted to hurt her as much as she had hurt me. When I got there, I found Megan and her husband, John, 26 male, having dinner. Without thinking, I blurted out everything, the photo, the betrayal, all of it. John was shocked. He hadn't suspected anything. Megan broke down, admitting that she and Matthew had been seeing each other for months. She said it started when I first moved in with her after catching Matthew with Mrs. Adams. She claimed she had fallen for him while trying to convince him to make things right with me. I've never felt so betrayed in my life. The two people I trusted most had been lying to my face for months. All those times Megan encouraged me to give Matthew another chance, it was all a lie to cover her own guilt. I left Megan's house feeling numb. John followed me out, thanking me for telling him the truth. He said he was going to file for divorce. The next few days were a blur. I cut off all contact with both Matthew and Megan. I told my parents everything, and while they're angry at Megan, they're also upset with me for breaking up my sister's marriage. Only John has been supportive, saying I did the right thing by exposing the truth. Now, I'm left picking up the pieces of my life once again. I'm 5 months pregnant, single, and have lost my sister and best friend. My family is divided, and I feel more alone than ever. But I know I made the right choice. I refuse to let Matthew and Megan's betrayal define my life or my child's future. I'm focusing on myself and my baby now. I've started looking for a new job, one that will allow me to support myself and my child. It's scary, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm taking control of my life. No more letting others dictate my choices or my worth. This isn't the life I imagined for myself, but it's the one I have. And I'm determined to make the best of it, for myself and for my baby. Update 3. A year has passed since my last update, and it feels like a lifetime ago. The biggest change, of course, is my beautiful baby boy, Ethan. He came into the world 3 months ago, and he's absolutely perfect. The moment I held him in my arms, I knew that every struggle, every tear, every moment of heartbreak was worth it. He's got my eyes and, thankfully, none of Matthew's features. Looking at him, I feel a love I never knew was possible. I'm a single mom now, and while it's the hardest thing I've ever done, it's also the most rewarding. Balancing work and motherhood is a constant challenge, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I was lucky enough to find a job as an administrative assistant at a local community college. The hours are flexible, and they have an on-site daycare, which has been a lifesaver. My family situation is still complicated. My parents have come around and are doting grandparents to Ethan. They've realized that supporting me and their grandson is more important than holding on to their anger. My dad, who was initially upset about the whole situation, has become Ethan's biggest fan. He comes over every weekend to spend time with his grandson, often bringing little gifts and toys. Megan and I are still estranged. She's tried to reach out a few times, sending cards and even a gift for Ethan, but I'm not ready to forgive her. The betrayal still feels too fresh, too painful. Maybe someday we'll find a way to rebuild our relationship, but for now, I need to focus on healing and taking care of Ethan. Surprisingly, John, Megan's ex-husband, has become a good friend. He's been through his own healing process and has been a source of support for me. We meet for coffee occasionally, sharing our experiences and offering each other advice. It's nice to have someone who understands the unique pain of such a personal betrayal. As for Matthew, he's made attempts to be involved in Ethan's life, but I've kept my distance. I allow supervised visits once a month, but that's it. I won't deny my son a chance to know his father, but I also won't let Matthew's toxic behavior affect our lives. It's a delicate balance, and one I'm still figuring out. Each visit is tense, with Matthew often trying to talk about us instead of focusing on Ethan. I've made it clear that there is no us anymore, only co-parenting. On a brighter note, there's someone new in my life. His name is Alex, 24M, and he's a colleague from work. We started as friends, bonding over lunch breaks and coffee runs. He's been amazing with Ethan, often volunteering to babysit or just spending time with us at the park. Alex has a gentle nature that's so different from Matthew's intensity. He makes me laugh and reminds me that there's still joy and lightness in the world. Alex has made it clear that he has feelings for me, but he's also respectful of my situation. He understands that I'm not ready for a serious relationship right now. My focus is on Ethan and building a stable life for us. Still, it's nice to know that there are good men out there, men who are patient and kind. Looking back on the past year, I'm amazed at how much I've grown. The girl who let Matthew control her life, who gave up her dreams to please him, seems like a stranger now. I've learned to stand up for myself, to set boundaries, and to prioritize my own happiness and well-being. There are still hard days, of course. Days when I'm exhausted from being up all night with a fussy baby. Days when I miss having a partner to share the load. Days when I worry about the future and wonder if I'm doing enough for Ethan. But then Ethan smiles at me, or giggles when I make a silly face, and all those worries melt away. I know that no matter what challenges come our way, we'll face them together. I'm not sure what the future holds. Maybe someday I'll be ready to let Alex or someone else into our lives in a more significant way. Maybe I'll go back to school and pursue the career in healthcare that I once dreamed of. For now, though, I'm taking it one day at a time, focusing on being the best mother I can be to Ethan. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that life rarely goes according to plan. But sometimes, the unexpected turns lead us exactly where we need to be. I may not have the life I thought I wanted at 19, but at 20, I have a life filled with more love and purpose than I ever imagined possible.